Hello Internet, hello War of the Visions fans, I'm Jockey Fox, and today we're going to be talking about the guild battle winners and losers. So what I did here is I looked up the GB stats for the top 15 units on offense and defense. I took their percentage used and their ranking, and then I compared it to, this is going to be a May 1st take, because we were in limited guild battle from the 15th until the end of the month. wotv stats does not track limited guild battle, so there is a chance that these stats aren't entirely updated, and there is some potential for them to contain Ashen Mont, but it would be day one for him, so we're not really going to see him in the charts just yet. So this is going to be our meta check-in for guild battle before the proliferation of Ashen Mont, because he's definitely going to be popular. And the theme here is really based around our new units for the month. That's going to be Oldoa and Jueme the Spring Celestial. Jueme the Spring Celestial being the most impactful of those. And probably the first important announcement to make is that there is now a new number one unit for offensive usage, and that is A2. And this makes a lot of sense. Definitely an incredible offensive unit specifically. I think that maybe there's some ways to counter her, although of the units in the game, she is one of the most difficult to deal with that isn't like this next generation unit specifically, and she plays really well with the newest next generation unit, or the newest at kind of the time of these rankings, Jueme the Spring Celestial. But I think that she maybe has a little bit of weaknesses that are going to hold her back on defensive teams just a bit, especially into the future. But for right now, she's kind of in a unit situation where those weaknesses are purely theoretical, because it takes a good player and a bit of luck to be able to regularly exploit them. So she's doing pretty well on both fronts. She is in second on defense. But in total, she went up 7 ranks, and this bump is probably largely due to her working incredibly well with Jueme, but also she works really well with Oldoa. Potentially, she could be the perfect second unit on teams with both of the brand new units, and those new units themselves are doing pretty well, with Jueme the Spring Celestial debuting in third position. This is a non-limited unit, so more and more people are going to pick her up. I almost expect her to take number 1 in the near future, but also things might get a little bit more complicated for her with Ashen Mont, and Ashen Mont could jump pretty high into these ranks too. Now, usually I wouldn't assume that limited units would be able to do this, but here we are seeing A2 as being represented on 17% of teams on offense these days, and 16% of defensive teams these days. So that is like 1 in 5 people in guild battle is playing this unit both on offense and defense practically, and that's really, really amazing penetration for a unit that was like a limited collaboration, especially one like Nier Automata. I guess a lot of people saved up and got it while the getting was good because they knew it wasn't coming back. So maybe that made her a priority for people in a way that other limited units wouldn't be. Kind of the inverse of my logic. Like, she's not coming back, so she's not getting updated. But anyways, pretty cool unit there. Jueme the Spring Celestial, third on offense and defense. Strategist Oldoa is debuting. And by the way, when I say third in offense and defense, there's a really big cluster at the top for all of these. Like, the top units here are sucking the air out of the room a little bit for the rest of the teams, and if you don't work with those units, you're going down in the ranks this month. And what is happening is Jueme is kind of in that highest tier, in that highest cluster. So A2 at first was at 17% usage on offense. Jueme is at 16%. Jueme is likely on most of those A2 teams. We're seeing a lot of greatsword teams represented in here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But Jueme the Spring Celestial was also 14% used on defense, so that is, again, quite a bit, and maybe scaling down with A2's limited usage, maybe, because I feel like, especially on defense, mixed element like greatsword teams are probably the preferable way to go with Jueme, because there is still a way to exploit the water Jume teams. Even though, again, like A2, it's more largely theoretical because you have to have the right team and a good build to do it. And then strategist Oldoa comes in 7th on either of these teams. She's kind of in the next tier down. She is at 8% usage on either side. So 8% of teams, nearly 1 in 10 players, is going to be using strategist Oldoa on offense and defense, typically. And then we also have 2 new units that ranked a little bit lower than those, but they both showed up on offense and defense. And both of these units, albeit probably on different teams, work with Jume the Spring Celestial. So if you don't have A2 and you're playing Jume, you're probably also playing Astrius the Erudite Bolt, or you're playing Summer Glaciella. Summer Glaciella is 11th place on both sides with 6 and 5% representation. And then Astrius the Erudite Bolt is 13th and 6th. 13th and 15th, respectively, with 6% and 5% representation between the two of those. So you can definitely see that if you work with Jume, you got a big boost this month. If you are Jume, you came in 3rd this month. And if you're anybody else, you're probably on the way down. So with that being said, let's talk about the losers. This is going to overlap a little bit with the data that I looked at previously, which kind of looked at more of the beginning of the month, up until about limited guild battle start, but a lot of things have changed since then. So we still are seeing Bart's on the decline. He actually fell off of both charts. He ranked 13th and 10th respectively at the beginning of April, and he is nowhere to be seen in the top 15 anymore. He lost a total of 15 ranks. And then we have Black Robed Witch Helena. That is the original 100 cost Helena, is losing 9 ranks. Now she is a little bit more stubborn than Bart's, and she actually still ranks 15th on offensive teams with 5% of players using her on offense. And then our next biggest loser was Flagbearer of Reform Glaciella. As Summer Glaciella is rising in the ranks, Flagbearer of Reform Glaciella is steadily dropping. She lost 5 ranks total in offense, which seems to be where she's being pushed out the most by a lot of these offensive greatsword teams. But she fell off of the ranks entirely for defense. She only lost 3 ranks, but she was kind of barely hanging on at the end, so that was enough to push her out completely. For Dark Fina fell completely off of the offensive charts. Again, another unit that's likely getting pushed out by these really great offensive greatsword teams. But Dark Fina does still rank at 14th on defense, and that is down 2 ranks from beginning of last month. Then we've got Addison Ray. Addison Ray previously only ranked on defense, so unlike some of these units, there's only 1 score to weigh in for here. Because I just didn't track how much she lost on offense. She was not in the top 15. She remains not in the top 15. So arguably Addison Ray lost a lot more than 6 ranks. But in terms of what I'm tracking, she lost 6. So she is on the losers list. And then probably right around where the significance ends, because if you only lost a couple of ranks today, it's because basically they copy-pasted a new meta into the top ranks of War of the Visions Guild Battle over the course of this month with Jume and Oldoa. So everyone lost like 2 ranks on either side. The average is about 4. So if you lost 4 ranks, that's pretty average. But if you were Raph or Elia the Alabaster, you actually lost 5 ranks, and that is a little bit above average, so that kind of indicates a velocity of you going down. In fact, the whole Vivi Roth Sephiroth team, that is such a mouthful, Vivi Roth Sephiroth team that was kind of this mono-element dark team that had just been sticking around and kind of modifying itself since Sephiroth was released. It is still occupying like 4th, 5th, and 6th slots on both offense and defense. So it is like the most obvious team that's just sitting in the ranks right now, all consecutive like that. But this whole team lost consistently at least 2 ranks, and Roth was the biggest loser of these, with Vivi actually being the one who lost the least. He only lost 3 ranks in total, which means that he's actually doing a little bit above average. I mean, the only person who actually did better than Vivi, well, actually King Bradley did about the same as Vivi, and King Bradley is about to be making a big comeback. Stern also might be making a comeback. He only lost 2 ranks. And then, of course, there's brand new Helena, who got her top slot taken by A2, but is now only in 2nd place. So, big changes there, and again, I expect into the future we're going to be seeing a lot more Earth, maybe even a bit more Ice. I don't think, I think there's a lot of like Ice synergy with the Ashen King. Also a lot of Water synergy, but Water's already kind of doing well. This might actually push Summer Glaciella up a little bit higher. I feel like there's a certain point where not enough players actually have Summer Glaciella to play her, that becomes a problem. But I think she could also stand to gain as well with Ashen King, because I can see her working well on Ashen King teams, especially maybe on defense. I really think that, his synergies are going to push forward. So we're seeing Stern and we're seeing Bradley stubbornly hanging in there, and I really think that because they've been able to hang in there on their own without any sort of a Knight synergy or strong Knight synergy, that now that we finally have one, those 2 are definitely going to rise in ranks. But I feel like the ideal partner in a lot of ways for right now, other than maybe strategist Oldoa, who is very powerful with Ashen Mont. Also Jueme. Jueme is pretty powerful with Ashen Mont. So both of those characters, new as they are, they're probably also going to be rising in the ranks because they can still work well on a team with Ashen Mont. And those 3 characters together are also pretty powerful together, even though you're running out of like vision card synergies at that point. That's really difficult to equip on that respect, but I think mechanically, in addition to being the 3 newest characters, mechanically those characters all really work well together. So that could be kind of a strong team that pulls itself up through the ranks. So I think that there's going to be at least a couple more units that are currently ranked that are going to be gaining this month. I don't think it's just going to be A2 again by any means. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that Astrius, the Erudite Bolt, is necessarily going to retain his upward momentum. He could, and honestly, Jueme might even give some players an excuse to use their Cloud again, as he remains popular on the ranks as well. So that could happen. And keep in mind, during next month, we're not only going to see the proliferation of the Ashen King, we should also see at least Cloud and Tifa, if not also Kadaj. I think Sephiroth is going to be at the beginning of the next month, so he's going to be the kind of the Ashen King of the next month, the real game changer at the beginning of the month's meta. But at least for May, I think that probably the biggest curveball is going to be the Ashen King, but Cloud also has the chance to stir things up, and free units always have a really cool chance of being popular. I hope that Tifa gains kind of some of the same popularity and sheen that Bartz did. Again, it's been a while since he's released. He was a free unit, and he was still until, this month really, on both sides of the rankings. So hopefully Tifa can enjoy that same kind of free unit prestige, because I think she'll be good. But in terms of who's going to be shaping the top guild battle meta, I really think that's going to be Ashen King, and we're going to see a little bit of effects from the others. but also the Ashen King is going to have more time to reshape the meta in his image than those characters will. I think we'll really start seeing the effects of Advent Children in the meta for the month of June specifically. But for over here, I think, really the defining quality of May is going to be based around Ashamon specifically. And he may also still remain one of the most impactful parts of the meta in the future, but he's no longer going to be a new quantity. He's going to be a known quantity. He's going to be established. And, instead of bringing a lot of new people with him, the people will be there at that point. So he will have become effectively the status quo, which Sephiroth will be attempting to strike down. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. I try to take a different look at Where the Visions and other content creators and give you a different way of looking at the game as well. So if you find that valuable, then please reward me a little bit and get YouTube to reward me a bit more with likes, comments, subscriptions. Definitely trying to get to 1,000. I would really love to see that, even though Where the Visions can be a small community. I'd really appreciate your support in getting there, but also there's a link in the description that links to ways to donate to the channel, other Jackie Fox content along the internet, but also books. I sell books. I am a writer of fiction of both kind of like fantasy and even video gamey style lore, but also like realistic fiction, kind of nervous, anxious, introvert, speculative, near future, cyberpunk. I'm just saying a stream of words at this point. This is not good writing. Not exemplary of good writing here, Sir Jackie Fox. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and with all that being said, I'll see you in the next one.